Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and today I thought we'd get together and do a little unboxing of a new Kickstarter deck that I just received, and that is the Faceted Garden Oracle by Claire Mack. So this was a deck that I actually backed on Kickstarter, which is not something that I often do, but I have her other deck, the Illuminated Earth Oracle, which we'll take a look at in comparison here at the end. And I love that deck. So when she announced that she was doing another one, I just decided, yep, that's one that I definitely have to have. And so I went ahead and backed it. Now, I don't often do a lot of unboxings on my channel, but when a deck arrives packaged so beautifully like this, I think it's just always fun to see how some indie creators are very creative and very thoughtful in the way that they produce their deck. Those little touches like that really do kind of create that personal connection, which I think is really nice. So it arrived just beautifully packaged, and I set it aside to wait so that we could open it together. So it has a little bit of twine here. I'm going to try to open this very carefully because I like to save these little pieces to use in my journals, but I think I'm gonna have to cut this one. So let's go ahead and slide this out. Beautiful little dried bundle there, which I think is lovely. Again, just so thoughtful when creators do stuff like that. And I am just going to clip this just for, time's sake and ease of use. And it has a little handwritten note with my name on it. And it says, "Thank you so much for your support. Love, Claire." Again, just those little touches, and a sticker from the deck. That's great. That's definitely going to be going in a journal or something. Just really beautiful. Let's just stick those over there. I like to make like little piles of all the little gifts that they include. Just really, like I said, just really makes the experience of buying an indie deck just all the more personal and all the more meaningful. There's just something really enchanting about knowing that a creator has taken this much time and effort to package up and ship off their decks. I think that's really wonderful. I do have to say it smells wonderful too. It is also plastic wrap, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off. And there we have the beautiful box. I love that. It matches the Illuminated Earth one. It looks like they're not quite the same size. The Faceted Garden is a little bit smaller, but look how beautiful they look together. That's just fun. Good fun there. Okay, let's move this one aside because that's not the one we're here to look at today. So let's take a look at this gorgeous box. It is, it has some gorgeous foiling on it. Beautiful box with some of the pictures. It says a 50-card oracle of metaphor and symbolism by the creator of the Illuminated Earth Oracle. Gorgeous. Has the nice thumb holes, which is always wonderful. So let's take a look at what's inside. We have beautiful boxes here. I know everybody likes to see the inside of the boxes. Gorgeous. So it has a couple of little pamphlets with it, and there is plastic wrap on it. This deck is actually silver gilded. The first deck that she did, the Illuminated Earth, was not gilded, which I actually prefer, and I had edged mine in gold, which we'll probably see, but this one actually comes gilded. We'll see. I'm not usually a fan of that, but we'll see how it goes. Look at the backs though, aren't they stunning? Okay, real quick, I'm just gonna take a look and see what these are. This looks like a little guide pamphlet. We'll take a look at that in closer detail later. And, oh, maybe I just accidentally got two. Okay, so it's just the same pamphlet. I accidentally got two of them. So we'll take a look at one of those in a minute. So now let's take a look at the beautiful cards. We have Animal Allies. Look, we have all the different animals coming together to help and support. I think that's beautiful. Gorgeous textures and colors in this deck. Anomaly. The two rabbits. One maybe moving towards something, one maybe moving away, maybe being of a split mind, not knowing which way to go. Here we have Birth. I love the use of the collaging in this deck. I don't recall there being a ton of collaging in the Illuminated Earth. Maybe it's just been a little while since I've worked with it, but we can see that there's like waves that are down here and they look like they're drawn, like they're ink. And then we have the ink of the baby within the womb, and then we have the flowers that very much look like they've, you know, been cut by hand and pasted onto the card. I really do kind of like that idea of that collaging, of bringing all those different artistic elements together. You can see we have some painting in the back and then just all that gorgeous texture and color. I have also noticed that all of the titles, title areas at the bottom are all color coded to the cards, which is really neat. I don't know if there's any real correlation to it or if it's just whatever color matches the card, but I thought that was really cool. So here we have Bloom, that we can see all the flowers growing up from her sort of womb space and then also coming out, like so growing within her and then manifesting outward into the world. It's gorgeous. Here we have Cactus, and look at all the texture on that card. Beautiful. All the rocks coming together, and then that cactus really standing front and center. And we see the purple rain cloud in the back that's raining on the cactus. I think that's really interesting. And Cave. Oh, I love this card. Look at the beautiful colors. I love this idea. We're kind of like looking at things. We're in the cave and we're looking outward. Like, are we ready to step out of the cave? Are we ready to take these little rocks, these little steps outward? Or are we still just needing to stay in the cave? Really fascinating. Celestial Realm. Fascinating. Consciousness. Oh, this is a gorgeous card. Like everything moving up from her third eye. Again, we can see more of that collaging with the little flowers. I love that. It looks like one of my journals. It's probably why I like it. Here we have Core with all things coming together in that hot center. I think that's really wonderful. Cultivation. This is a beautiful card. Look at all that greenery, that growth. We have this flower in the center that's blooming out of it. It's almost like labyrinth in the middle too. Really interesting. Here we have Entropy. Definitely like a death type card, an ending maybe, time for some change. What's really interesting is we have this poisonous snake here. I think, what do they call that? A coral snake? Anyway, somebody else might know better than me, but the snake is in the skull. So is the skull bringing death to the snake, or did the snake bring death to the skull? I think that's really interesting. Entwined. Again, we have more snakes, two snakes entwined together. We can see the pieces of trees behind them. Really beautiful. Here we have Fall. Oh, I love this card with the mushrooms. I hope there's a season card for every season. That would be fantastic. Love the colors in this deck. Just absolutely beautiful. And I love all the texture. That's one of the things that I really like about Claire Mack's artwork. Like, she has just such a way with texture. It's so beautiful. So here we have Flame. This gorgeous red burning hot in the center of all these black coals. Moving outward into what looks like kind of the sky there. Very interesting. Fountain. Here we have Gate. So definitely seeing some elements of things that we would have in a garden, which I think is really interesting. This one has the Ouroboros, maybe some shells here. It's more of the idea of a gate, or maybe the illusion of a gate, perhaps. Gemstones. Beautiful with all the stones. Love the purples in this deck. It's gorgeous. Here we have our Herbal Allies. We have all the little plants coming together. Humanity. That's really beautiful, isn't it? We have the eye in the center and the hands on either side. Like, you can see everything is contained within this triangle. Everything is coming together. I think it's really wonderful. Here we have Light. Beautiful, all that light's shining outward from the center wheel here of the pile of stones, it looks like. I suppose they could be eggs, but they look like stones to me. I love the spirals too. Definitely get that sense of light, renew in that card. Lotus, look how beautiful. Lots of rich, wonderful colors in this deck. Gorgeous with the flower. Metamorphosis, isn't that beautiful? We have the beautiful figure in the center, beautifully drawn, all the butterflies, rainbow behind him. I love that there's like this, there's the lightning behind too, like that really hints to that idea of the, you know, power of change, the power of that metamorphosis. Gorgeous. Here we have the mineral realm. Morning song. Oh, we have the little bird who's singing. I really like the snake Ouroboros behind it too. Like there's actually two of them entwined together. That's interesting. Or maybe it's one shedding its skin now that I'm looking at it a little bit closer. That's kind of cool actually. Here we have mycelium. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Or mycelium. I love this with all the little mushrooms and the moss. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love mushrooms. Here we have nest. All the little eggs in the nest. Again, we see all this texture in these cards, which I think is just really beautiful. New moon, look at that. That is a stunning card. I love the colors. I love this little illustrated flower that looks like it's been cut out and pasted over the top of all of this wonderful purpley muted color and texture. And then we have the gorgeous dark new moon. Beautiful. I love that card. Might be my favorite so far. Nocturnus. Oh, it's gorgeous. We see the figure here. I almost thought that was like a mountain at first. That's interesting. Because this to me looks like at the celestial realm, right? And this almost looked like a mountainscape or a landscape that we're seeing. So we think of, you know, humans as maybe you are the landscape. Really interesting. Passage. Oh, that's beautiful. You can see it going into the little temple there. Perennial. Again, another gorgeous little flower. So much beautiful texture and color in this deck. Pillar. Oh, I quite like that one. Everything's exploding out from the peak. That's beautiful. Gorgeous. Pollinator. The butterfly. Taking the pollen from plant to plant. Ram. That's an interesting choice for a garden oracle. I don't often think of ram in terms of garden, but I do quite like it. I really like this imagery here in the center, and then we have the volcano like exploding out from behind it. Very powerful card. Here we have Scarecrow. So we can see this big moon behind her and the birds taking flight. It's gorgeous. Here we have seeds. Spade. Oh, that's a striking card, isn't it? We have all this texture down here in the dirt. The roots coming up and making a circle around the spade. Gorgeous. Gorgeous spring card. I love that. All that new growth. Here we have the star. Okay, lovely. There's the summer card. So I think we're going to get them all. That's lovely. Definitely has kind of a summery, beachy energy to it almost. We have the little waves in the background here. Sun. Oh, that's quite beautiful with the flowers themselves making the sun. I love that. It's gorgeous. Here we have Terrarium with that beautiful idea of like the microcosm. Gorgeous. Love that. Here we have Thaw. Beautiful card. I love the use of color in this card. A really great contrast. We have that idea of things definitely thawing and releasing. Thorns. Gorgeous card. I just really love these little collaged flowers because it looks so much like so much of the things that I create. I really like that. Union. Oh, that's beautiful, isn't it? The hands coming together and the flowers in the middle. Gorgeous. Watershed. Beautiful. Weather. Very important in a garden. I love that. Weather also brings the idea of change, right? Change. Sometimes it helps us to grow, sometimes not so much. Wild card. So it's interesting that it says wild card instead of like wild, because that makes me think of wild, makes me think of just, you know, kind of things in their raw natural habitat, right? They're untouched, they're wild. But the idea of a wild card really lends itself more to the idea of it can be whatever you need it to be. And we have like kind of all of these elements sort of mixed together. We have the rain and the rain cloud and the sun, and we have a rainbow, and we have a cherry, and we have a flower blooming. So it really does give the sense of kind of anything is possible, right? It's your choice. It's a wild card. You can make of it what you will. I think that's really interesting. Oh, and there's the winter card. Oh, that one's beautiful. I love that. Love the contrast in the cards. Here we have wood. Interesting that there is the smoke in the background. I guess because we have recently experienced some forest fires, or a lot of forest fires actually, that really created some devastation. That is immediately what I go to when I look at this card. And so it kind of brings in a little bit of a darker energy for me as well. But wood is also used to build things, to create things. So I think that's really interesting. All about context and perspective when it comes to cards, right? What I see will be totally different than when someone else sees, which is why I think walkthroughs are fascinating. And here we have wreath and all the different elements coming together. We have flowers, and we have rocks, and we have moss, and we have shells and crystals, and that whole idea of everything coming together kind of reminds me of the World card in the tarot. It's definitely a deck I'm going to enjoy working with, I think. It does have the beautiful matte cardstock. It does have the silver gilding, which I'm not a fan of. I just don't like gilding, but let's give it a shuffle. But gilding aside, it shuffles really, really well. Shuffles really similar to the Illuminated Earth. Now let's just do a little quick comparison here. So here is the Illuminated Earth. You can see there's a bit more cards, I think. The Illuminated Earth has 63 cards, and the Faceted Garden has 50. So you can see there's definitely less cards in the new one, but I do think that the cards that she's created were very, I feel like they were very mindfully created, so I think that's really wonderful. The cardstock between the two is a little bit different. I would say the Illuminated Earth is a little bit thicker cardstock, and the Faceted Garden is a little bit thinner, and of course it is got the gilding on it, which the Illuminated Earth didn't. And I just edged mine in gold stamp. So, I mean, it looks like it's gilded, but it's just stamped. The whole reason that I'm really talking about cardstock here is because I originally, when I first saw this deck, had the idea of maybe I could combine these two decks into one oracle. So I was really curious as to if they would even work well together that way. They are the same size, it looks like, so that's handy. Although, if I trim the gilding off of the Faceted Oracle, they won't be the same size. So there is that. The other thing that you can see is notably different in these two decks is that the way that Claire Mack has done the titles is different, because instead of having the this kind of inner border, which I really don't mind, and the title kind of, it almost looks like it's stamped down in this gold area, which I do like, although the curly font is a little bit hard to read. To be perfectly honest, this font is a little hard to read too, because it's on a very textured background and it's a very thin lined font. But you can see that they're done a little bit differently. And there's no border on this one as there was on this one. So you can see that border appears on all of the cards. There are little symbols on the Illuminated Earth as well at the top, which we don't have in the Faceted Garden. A little bit more even here. And let's take a look at maybe just kind of flip through them together just so we can see what they look like. So here we have Nest and Moon. I'm kind of curious if they would work well together. Flame and Gifts. Herbal Allies and Earth. That one definitely works. As you can see, the art style is very similar. Look at this. Speed and Fertility. Those are beautiful. Love that. They definitely look compatible enough that I think you could definitely work with them together in a reading. Star and Resilience. Definitely as above, so below energy there. I think they're really beautiful together, actually. And I think they're going to work really well if you wanted to mix them together to do a reading. I'm half tempted to just mix them together, but then I'd have to sit here and separate them. Maybe. Okay. I'll just go ahead and do it so we can see it, so you don't have to if you don't want to. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to take like a section of these ones and a section of these ones, and then I'll just have to separate them out later. But that feels really weird in my hand. But let's just see what happens if I mix them together. I mean, obviously I haven't done the full deck of both decks. That would actually be really hard to probably shuffle, because that would be, you know, 100+ cards that you'd be working with. But that's kind of cool though. You got the light and the dark in the back. Let's just look at that. Actually mixing them together, the gilding isn't near as troublesome, I guess. And look, they look kind of cool mixed together. I mean, granted, I have edged mine, so the Illuminated Earth doesn't come with any sort of gilding on it. But let's just like flip some over and see, like, how do they look in the reading together. That's kind of beautiful. One of the things that I really appreciate about Claire's decks is that she does have a good balance of, I think, of light and shadow within them. So you can actually use them for readings all on their own. And I think that's really wonderful, because it really opens up what you can do with the deck. I mean, I use my Illuminated Earth with tarot all the time, and I think the Faceted Garden would work really well for that too. But I do really like that it has enough balance in it that you could certainly read it all on its own. And you can see here that when actually I mix them all together into one deck, I don't know that the differences in the title and the sort of mini border really even catches my eye anymore. It's like, well, there's a lot of texture and there's a lot of color going on in these decks for sure, but I feel like they work together really well, even though they are a little bit different designed. I'm so happy that they're the same size, because then that means that I can put them together into a single deck if I really wanted to, and I very well might. This, we have Underworld, Wood, Reincarnation. That right there, for considering what's been going on in my neck of the woods, that's a very appropriate 3 cards. There's a lot of things going on right now. Hopefully that will lead to some new wonderful changes and growth out of that. But I think that they look just fine together, even though they have a little bit different styles. In fact, I kind of like that they have a little bit different styles now that I'm looking at it. I kind of feel like it really helps to sort of balance them out. Like, even just looking at the backs together, like that's really pretty. I kind of like that. I definitely get that idea of light and shadow with those mixed together. So I'm kind of leaning towards mixing them into just one big oracle. Before I do that, however, I am going to work with the Faceted Garden on its own, just so that I can kind of get a feel for the deck itself, get a feel for the energy and this particular artwork before I kind of mix in any other energies with it. But I have a feeling that I'm going to end up putting them together into one big oracle, really similar to like I've done with my Blue Messiah and my Cosmic Reading cards. But before I do that, I do want to work with them a little bit with just on their own, so I can really get a good sense of the deck's energy on its own before I bring in the energy of the Illuminated Earth with it. But the Illuminated Earth is one of my favorite oracles, so I'm super excited to be able to have that option to pull those in, and I can separate them back out. Like, as I'm sitting here babbling, I could totally be separating them out, right? So that is a look at Claire Mack's beautiful The Faceted Garden Oracle. I am really excited to have it as part of my collection. Like I said, I really am looking to mix it with my Illuminated Earth at some point. But for right now, I really want to spend some time getting to know this one to kind of uncover its unique energy, its unique vibe, and to kind of become familiar with it before I throw it in with another oracle. But it is a gorgeously produced deck, and the artwork is just phenomenal. I love the way that Claire does her textures and her colors. Like, she has a real gift for that, and I think it's just absolutely beautiful the way she brings it all together. And it just creates for a really lush and detailed and really deep oracle, I think. And as I mentioned before, I really like the use of light and shadow that she uses in her deck, not only in her keywords, but in the color palette themselves. There's a lot of light and dark in her cards, a lot of bringing things into balance, and I think that's really beautiful. We can see that reflected in quite a few of the cards within this deck as well as her previous deck. There are some creators that I'm like, no matter what they make, I'm probably going to buy it. And I do have to say that Claire Mack is one of those creators. I absolutely love her work. I love the way she collages things together, the texture she uses, the color she uses, and really the thoughtfulness and depth that she provides in her decks, which I just think is really lovely. So that is a look at the beautiful Faceted Garden Oracle by Claire Mack. Thank you for joining me today. You will find links for the decks featured here in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video and will join me again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.